Well, good evening, everyone. I am honored and privileged to be the host tonight for the Connecticut Center for Spiritual Living. We have a great event tonight where we will be interviewing and getting to learn a little bit more about our president at the Center for Spiritual Living here in Connecticut, Mr. Gary Filip. Gary, I'm excited to have you join us tonight and excited to learn a little bit about you and what this organization has done for you and how it's changed your life. So thank you very much for being a part of tonight's show and coming on with us.
I'm very happy to be here. Welcome, everyone.
So we're excited to have this be part of a chapter, a series rather, of getting to know the leadership at the center. And so tonight we thought it would be appropriate to start with the president, and looking forward to what's to follow from here. So Gary, if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving a little bit of a brief little introduction, kind of where you're from, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we kind of start to dive into the good stuff there, if you would.
All right. Well, Dana, spent my whole life in Connecticut, in Vernon, Connecticut, Rockville area. Live down by the shore now in Niantic. I'm an electrician full-time. I was exposed to the center about 8.5 years ago now, which seems like yesterday in this journey. But it's been a great one. I just kind of, when I went to the service for the first time, I was introduced by my now wife, Tara. She had said, I think you might like this, in real general. So okay. I didn't know anything about it, but I was there about 5 minutes, and I looked at her and I said, you thought I might like this? Because it was right up, it was exactly, I feel I was guided to be there, to take the next step in the journey. But it's just been amazing. I just felt so welcome. I felt so at home, somewhere where I could be myself. I wasn't judged. I didn't feel like I was being judged from who I was, where I grew up from, or what I did for a living. It was just a very open experience. Awesome.
That was very much similar to the experience that I had when I first went as well. I definitely felt it was a very loving, embracing environment of people from all sorts of different backgrounds and cultures and different beliefs. And it was very well diversified. And I found that to be pretty attractive and certainly very impressive. And my first experience definitely impacted me as well. And I can certainly only imagine what your first experience was like. And 8.5 years ago, that's amazing. That's a blessing for sure to have that much time.
It was empowering. I had kind of divorced myself from the Catholic religion. Just growing up, just not feeling comfortable to be myself. And so the whole experience for me has been very enlightening, empowering. Was able to take back the power that I had given to so many others, just by buying into their beliefs about me. They love me, but they still had, you've done that before. I'm not sure if you can go there, So a lot of our beliefs comes from things that we don't realize. We take them on as our own. I thought we were going to talk about religious things, and we were talking about how we can improve our lives through some understanding. And I was like, wow, this is something I can do. Broke at the time. I'm like, oh, it's not going to cost me any money to change my life. I heard the slogan, change your thinking, change your life. And I was like, that I think I can do. So I'll just share, it was a realization that, I was where I was because of my best thinking. And at first I was like, oh my God, I'm so in trouble. Like, if I got myself here, how am I ever going to get out of it? But at the same time, if that's the case, then I could really get to where I wanted to go by changing some of the things I was thinking about. That was what I've learned along the way.
So that's a great kind of segue into one of the questions I want to ask you here. I'd like to ask you, Gary, what was life like for you, before you found Science of Mind? What was your mindset and the mentality, before you learned about change your thinking, change your life? What was your thinking like? And was it something that felt good? Was it something that was beneficial to you? Looking back now in hindsight, how would you assess your way of thinking before you got introduced to CSL and science of mind?
Okay. Well, I always had challenges with different things. I was, taught to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and the rest just happens, right? Um, so I felt I was doing all of those things, and yet I was still struggling. My relationship with money was terrible. Um, Always, well, looking back now, it was really bad, and it's no surprise that I never kept it. I had a good life. I wasn't, living on the street or anything. And if you are, you can change that too. There's so many stories about people that are just changed everything, but I'll try to keep it personal. Uh, it was just lack. Didn't I always felt that if I spent something here, then somebody else would suffer because I was being selfish, maybe if I wanted to, but I just got to the point where it was paying my bills was okay, but it was that extra cash, just put gas in the car. Um, it's one of my story. Tara said, I called her one time. I was stuck. I had no gas in the car, no money, right? And I called her and she said, you need to do a treatment now. Cause I'd been around for maybe 6 months or so. I understand the idea of the spiritual mind treatment. Uh, but I never really, once you get to a point, things change. You have to make a change. And I was just sick and tired of being where I was. And said, if this was an opportunity, then I really need to look at it and take it more seriously than I did. So it was a lot of lack, not enough. How can I pay for that? How can we do this? How can we do that? The how, right? Uh, then I learned it's not our job to figure out how that happens. It's to figure out why we want it to happen.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So that, to me, as you're telling me this, not only could I relate very much to that same type of mindset, but my judgment of everything that you're telling me is, I'm like, man, that sounds like it's got to be painful. That sounds like you kind of lived a painful, stressful way of life. Is that accurate?
I had gotten to in my mid 40s was just I just had to deal with that, and that was the way it was going to be. So I had to come to some peace with that because otherwise it would have been just miserable. So I just accepted things around me, and I started being grateful for what I had. And it's a big practice today and what I've learned now. But I was practicing some of the philosophies and the principles before I really even knew how to put them together and make them work. I think we all do that, but there's that little person in the back saying, your brain is remembering all the pain and things, failures and mistakes. And so it goes right to that when you start thinking outside the box. So you have to learn how to control those thoughts. They're there to assist you. So you don't want to get angry at them.
Right.
Going a little off topic, but when you get some thoughts that aren't in line with who you really believe you are, I just say thank them and then give them the authority to leave and tell them they're not welcome anymore. The whole science of mind is very simple. It's not easy to do because it takes discipline, practice, patience. And most of us were kind of raised not to have those qualities.
You mean people want instant gratification?
Yeah. Well, and so did I. So did I. But when you're looking for things, when you're trying to do stuff, the only way, you have this idea of perfect. So you want to do everything perfect. And so you don't enjoy the trip. One of the things I've been able to do now is to set the intention and let God do the work. Let spirit, the universe, do what it's there for, and it's there to provide us everything good. So when you get into that state, it's life changes. It becomes more joyful and peaceful.
More joyful and more peaceful. That definitely resonates with me, and that's certainly something that I have been seeking throughout my life. And I tried a lot of different avenues that I thought was going to get me there, and I thought was going to, deliver on all of that peaceful and happiness and all that good stuff. And through what I've learned here at the center, I actually learned that it was my need for all of those things that was actually causing me to be unhappy and miserable, and all of that. So it's really funny when you really get to dive into the practices and to what's taught here, for sure.
Yeah, the idea of, I'll touch on what you said, the idea of needing something always keeps it in the distance. So when you declare it as you have it now, you can allow that to be, you can attract that to you instead of working for it. So you set an intention versus setting goals, right? A lot of times people would go to hundreds of seminars on goal setting, and I never had any luck setting goals because I wasn't disciplined enough to do them. So the result of that was set a goal, feel bad, never do it again. So what I've learned here now is to set the intention. I was, for a while, I was embarrassed almost to talk about the success that I was having, because I didn't feel, if I shared that, I didn't want someone to take it the wrong way. It took me quite a while. You actually were very instrumental in that, allowing me to share my story and feeling okay with that, and not, because it's just an example, be an example. So we're not here to tell you what to do, but we can certainly, guide you in the right direction to what you really know is the truth. We just forget that as we get older. We're here to enjoy life. Look at a baby, all the needs are met.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that they know, they share, they don't, the kids get together, they don't look, there's no race, there's no color, there's no any of that. It's just love, and that's what God is to me. It's just love.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. And I forgot who I was talking to recently, but I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was telling them, it's like, we learned all of that unpleasantness in life. We learned that stuff. We weren't born with it. We were born with that unconditional, love and openness and just kindness towards other people. And somewhere along the lines, we're taught something different, and we forget how to be happy. We forget how to be content. We forget how to just be in the present moment. For myself, I have had a really big challenge with learning to be okay with the present moment. And I learned that came from, a lot of childhood traumas and stuff like that. But I can certainly.
I've seen you make such an incredible change, and that's one of the pleasures of doing this or getting involved with the center, is just watching people go through this. We can't do it for you. We can watch you do it and support you, but it's an inside job.
Absolutely.
But it's something that you can do. It doesn't in no way is negative at all in your life. You're only going to experience more joy if that's when you realize and believe that that's why we're here, to experience joy and love. Yes. It's just been great to see you, and so many others at the center just have incredible changes, and you're able to move on and do what they've always wanted to do without the fear and the worry that it's not going to happen. Yeah. And to, again, not worry about so much how it's going to happen, just know that it's going to. And that it may be some of the things we're saying tonight may challenge your beliefs. It's not like I say it's ancient, wisdom. It's in all the books. If any of the self-help books, the idea of that, it does start all it's inside. It's how you think. So many books on that. Think and Grow Rich. It's not grow rich and then start thinking. It's think and grow rich, right? But there's just been so many along the way. And when I started coming and listening to Reverend Patrick, he was talking like some of the people that were teaching seminars I was going to. And he had been a minister for over 35 years. I was just blown away by what I was hearing.
Absolutely. Me too. I was kind of confused because, for me, when I came to the center, it was like, I've invested, thousands and thousands of dollars into all sorts of different books and classes and seminars and things like this. For me to like come to this place and make a donation was just a little mind blowing to me. And the greatest thing has been for me is that it's there, it's consistent. The center has really been around for well over 10 years now, and to be able to attend on a regular Sunday morning has been profoundly life-changing, to say the least.
Yeah, and we managed to do our Zoom services through the pandemic and starting to open back up, but we've been able to stay together, which has been really cool. When it first started, I had an email list and I heard something about Zoom. I had no idea that we were able to stay together. It's been great. Now expanding on Facebook, we just wanted everybody to know there's a lot of people that feel like Dana and I that just don't know that that there's an opportunity, and we have one here for you.
Gary, if you were to summarize, in a short couple of sentences to somebody that's never heard of Science of Mind, never, been really much into kind of personal growth and development, how would you summarize what Science of Mind and CSL is all about, and why would they, be interested in checking this out, you think?
Okay. I would start with my understanding. There was physical laws that I understood. I'll use gravity. We all understand gravity. We don't know how it works, but if you don't respect it, then you has a consequence. You can't just jump out. And what I learned here is that there's spiritual laws also about that conform to the way we think. So what we're here is philosophies, and we just explain these spiritual laws. And when you hear them, you're either going to say, I believe in that, or you're going to be challenged. And so I challenge you to get a little bit more understanding, but you can see there's so much power within us by just changing our thinking. So come to one of the services, just listen to the message of the day, and if it resonates with you, then come back. We're not trying to convince anybody, to do anything that they're not willing to do, or convince anyone to change a religion that they're in. This is all inclusive, and we all bring a special piece to this, coming together like this from all different backgrounds. Judaism, Buddhism, Catholic, the Christians. There's a common idea, and the main idea here at the center is that we're all one. When I first heard that, what do you mean? And then I started hearing, what I used to think, the Father. Why did Jesus say the Father and I are one? What did he really mean by that? And that's what he was trying to tell us, that we're all one. Just like the ocean is all contained in one little drop. It's not the ocean, but it has everything that the ocean has in that one little drop. So related to our human experience, we're not God, but we have all those qualities within us, just like God does, except we forget. And we learn false statements. So we're just about the truth. If it makes sense, come back. It is hard to explain, but if you're looking for something, there's an opportunity here. If you give us a little bit of time and open up your mind and open your heart for a little bit, you're going to see something that you're going to find value.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that one. And, it's a much different message than you're going to find anywhere else. And, one of the things that Reverend Patrick had said that really resonated with me, he said, we teach people how to think, not what to think.
Right.
And that, once that really settles in,
yeah,
that's a pretty profound statement, and it's definitely true. And learning how to think is it's interesting. I never realized how little I knew about how to think. We think that we're doing it all the time and this and that, but there's a difference.
Yeah, about 90 to 95% of our thinking is subconscious. It's based on past reactions. Your mind wants to keep you safe, so it reminds you when this happened, when that happened. It's there for a reason, but there's so much power also that goes with that. Take back the power, take it back.
Absolutely. Gary, I'd like to ask you, what types of spiritual practices have you found that have been the most impactful for you in your journey? Since getting involved in the science of mind and what you've learned.
I'll just start with that idea of the oneness, and that we're made in the likeness and image of God, whatever your God. You can't describe God, because when you give it God a name, you limit it. So Ernest said it the best. He just said it's it. That was his description of it. It. What is this thing called life? There's just so many books, but I think the most powerful thing that we offer here versus a lot of other opportunities would be the spiritual mind treatment. And it is a type of declarative, affirmative prayer where we acknowledge God within us. We recognize that, and we unify ourselves with that one spirit. And then there's a part where you declare what you'd like to have happen in your life. And the fourth section is to be thankful for it and then just release it. Of course, there's a seminar on each one of those steps, but it's really powerful, and it's done that way. So when we say we're not teaching you what to think, you can desire anything you want. We're just showing you how to express it and word it so that it becomes a reality in your life, an experience in your life. Edison or Einstein said thoughts are things. That's what he meant. Everything starts with a thought. But we forget that. So we need to, get community, get around people, come once a week, come to a class, join one of the groups, conversation groups, or so that we can just remind ourselves what we already know. It's kind of one of the things I'm working on, to remind ourselves when to remember what we already know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hope I answered your question there.
Yeah, the spiritual mind treatment is definitely a great practice for sure. I've also found meditation to be extremely helpful.
Definitely.
Something really powerful. Meditation is part of our service on Sunday mornings.
And it's guided too. So if you're not familiar with meditation and what that's all about, we have a guided meditation. So it'll kind of help you understand what that is all about. But all the answers that you're looking for are in the silence. A lot of us look for them in schools, jobs, elsewhere. I always say, like, animals have intuition. Well, they follow theirs, right? I mean, they have animals their instinct. They have instinct, and they follow that. We have intuition, but a lot of times we don't follow our intuition. So that's the guidance. That's the guidance. The guidance that's there, that's offered to us when we allow it to come into us. That's what meditation is all about. It's opening up to that wisdom.
Learning to get out of the way.
Yeah, we gotta get out of the way.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've definitely gotten in the way a lot in my life, and didn't trust that inner instinct.
Well, I've heard this a million times before I came to the center. You're your worst enemy, right? Well, what do they mean by that? And so it's the consistency of our thought, not exactly what we're saying. So if we're saying, I'm going to get this new car and it's going to be great. And then we're getting in our old car and we're focusing on how bad our car is. Your tendency is about the bad car, but what you're saying is about the new car. So it's the tendency that we have to really realize. So you start watching, become more aware of your thoughts. A lot of people use journaling to write down things, their thoughts during the day, and find the patterns. What is a pattern that I'm, and it's those patterns, those subconscious thoughts that hold you back from what you really want.
Were you able to recognize some patterns that you had?
Yeah. Just a few. You know, some were mine, but I didn't want to. I couldn't take credit for all of them. Yeah, it's just things I learned. People had taught things. You know, you heard repetition, things like that. That's for those people, or that kind of life's for them. So you just put it off, you know.
Right. Gary, what was the process? You know, what was your experience like going through the actual realization process? You know, and the
Well, I got excited about it because I knew that once I recognized the patterns of my thought and where they were coming from, that I could easily change them. You know, it wasn't anything that I was stuck to. It wasn't something that I had to live with or deal with. I realized I could change it. So it was challenging, but at the same time, it was rewarding because then I understood what the problem was, why the blockage was there. So the other side's great, you know, but it takes work and it takes patience. And it really, the biggest part was forgiving myself for the way I thought, things like that. So I did beat myself up for quite a while, and I realized that wasn't serving anybody, like certainly me. So I had to forgive myself, and forgiveness is a major part of the program here.
forgiveness, absolutely. That
Holding that kind of anger and angst, it's not healthy. Comes out in many physical forms. So much from stress. It's got to come out somewhere. So do it mentally, and don't let it affect your body like that.
you know, I had gone to a psychiatrist several years back, and been to many of them in my lifetime, but and I went to him, and I was just planning on talking to him about kind of like my ADD, and you know, he just sat there and listened to me for probably half an hour, 45 minutes or so. And it's interesting that you bring up the anger piece, because that's what he pointed out. He said, you got a lot of anger pent up inside. And, you know, even though he told me that, I didn't realize it.
Hard. They're buried so far in. We really need help and counsel to bring it up.
You know, definitely the center it really took me deep, and it allowed me to see things that I wouldn't allow myself to see.
Right.
You know, it's amazing what we can keep ourselves from seeing, yet we suffer the consequences from it still being there. And that's one of the things that's been just the greatest gifts that this place has given me, is the insight to all of that suppressed anger and you know, just resentment towards people, events in my life. You know, if you would ask me, oh, are you an angry person? I'd say, no, I'm pretty calm, I'm pretty relaxed, pretty chill. But
right,
let me tell you, I was pretty deceived by myself. And then all of a sudden, I experienced that moment of clarity.
understanding.
Understanding, yes, we'll call it the moment of understanding, where that came in. And forgiveness. I cried like a baby when that became evident to me, and it was absolutely life changing for sure. I could totally pick up on the whole you know, anger piece, and learning to change all of that recognizing that we do have control over that. We can reprogram ourselves. That's
So through the courses, you go through, jealousy, worthiness, all those things, and the more you dig in there, you realize this can't be true for me. This just can't be true. So that's kind of where I was. I didn't want to accept that as the truth. And then I started learning options and different perspectives about things like that, and it just started making sense. That's one thing about the truth is the truth. So when you hear something that's true to you and you know it's true, you go, yeah, that's true. It's
non-debatable,
right?
Even though you have that urge to debate it. That's when you start to become aware of the story you're telling yourself versus what really is.
Yeah, what's helped a lot too is the classes and being in a class with 7 or 8 people, totally confidential, so you're free to share. And it's amazing how it was 2 people look at the same thing, get 2 different perspectives. So when you hear someone else's, then it allows you to move over and look at your life from a different perspective. So to get out of it, so to speak, for a minute, and look at it from a different angle, and that's where that stuff happened.
That's where it takes some serious work and willingness, right?
It does. But it's easy with a group. It really helps out with a group. Because for me, a lot of the things I was feeling and experiencing, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to talk about those things like that. But it just gave me an avenue and a platform to just share and be honest and grow from that.
Yeah. So it sounds to me, and that I think we can both agree that coming and attending a Sunday service, is a great. It definitely had a lot of value to it, but I think where the significant change takes place is when you really dive into the courses and the classes, and
Well, you start to embody it. So instead of just having that feeling once or twice a week, now you can embody that. You can take that every day, and you can change everything. But just once a week, honestly, it's not enough. Sometimes you got to read the book twice. The second time you read it, it's got a different meaning than the first time.
Right. Yeah. Gary, so how long ago, you've been coming to the center now, you've been a part of this place for about 8.5 years. How long did it take before you really experienced a major shift?
Not long, not long at all. There was an opportunity to help volunteer. We rent the center, we rent it, so we set up and we take it apart after service. So I just started helping around that, and I had a vision. I said, this would be really cool to be the president here one day, and just offer this to other people. I got so much value out of it. I made a commitment to whatever it took, setting up chairs, whatever. People need this place to sit. It was just to me, I never had volunteered anywhere before. I'd always heard about volunteering as just a practice. Very rewarding. It's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And I just started sharing a little bit. I didn't have money to tithe at the time, so I tithed my time. And then I started learning about that. I'd heard about that in all the books too. It's in all the books, 10%, right? We don't believe in 10%. If 1% is a challenge, do 1%. But get to 10. Get to 10, because 9% is, according to a lot of people, is not tithing. It's 10%. And we're talking the billionaires, Bill Gates. So you look at all of these biographies, they all tithe. And there's so many stories about someone that, only had a couple dollars a day, but they took 10 cents out of every dollar and just gave it to where they were being spiritually fed. And before you know it, I just listened to another story, 6 months, completely changed it, live in their car, completely changed their life. 6 months. So it doesn't take long. And I had no mortgage, and within 2 years, I was able to. I didn't even have a credit score, never mind a mortgage, uh, and was able to buy this house with some debt that just disappeared for a little while, so I could get my mortgage, and it came back, and it was okay because I didn't want to avoid it, but I didn't want it to show up when I bought the house, and I didn't know how that was going to happen. I just knew it was going to happen, and it was just another, realization of knowing the truth and attracting it to you instead of trying to do it. If I tried to pay that debt off, I don't even know what would happen. If I was trying to work all that work, all that stress just to do it my way, and I just allowed God to take care of it, and I said I'll take care of it later.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's got to be that's a big change, man. A lot, definitely not the way that we're what's normalized, I guess you would say.
I did that treatment about the gas, and within like a month, I don't never have to worry about where the gas was coming from again. The statement was, I'll never run out of gas again. I'm happy it never going to happen again, and just declared that as the new truth. Like, I'm never going to have to think about this again. I let it go because I was so tied up in that. Yeah, I can pay the bills, but I'm pushing to tighten for gas. Somebody wants me to help them, but it's too far. I'm going to run out before the end of the week. It was ridiculous. And now, like I said, I never think about it anymore. So many things. That's one thing. It's my biggest example because it was what I was struggling with most when I first came.
It sounds to me as though you were living in a life of kind of, desperation and survival and learning.
A lot of reacting.
A
lot of reacting to things that were going on. I just
working out for you.
Yeah, I just thought that was what I was supposed to do. But I've also learned that stuff happens all the time, and it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it.
Oof. That's a golden nugget right there. That one's free, folks.
I had a tree fall on my car, and I was just like, wow, that's amazing. And my neighbor was like, I can't even believe you're just standing here like you are. He was just blown away. And I was like, what am I going to do? The tree's on the car. It's all gone. There's nothing I can do standing right here that's going to change that. So I just said, I'm going to look for the good in this. I had heard that there's good in everything, and I never really had to dig into that one too much until that day. And got a new car, got a new apartment right after that. It was.
That's a great example, Gary. I'd like to just kind of utilize that example right there and speak now. Before Science of Mind, how would you have reacted to a car falling on your tree? To a tree falling on your car?
Yeah.
What type of response would you have had previously?
I would just said, I just couldn't even believe it. I'm like, really? I'm trying to be a good person, so I'm trying to make the deal now. Like, I held up on my part. Why can't you take care of this? So I got mad at God even. I was like, I don't understand how you could do this to me. I'm supposed to be doing all the right stuff. And so I got angry at that. I had to let that go too. But I forgive myself because I only knew what I knew then. So today, I think I had that experience so that I could change. So that pain brings you to a point where you don't have to suffer. The pain's there for a reason, but we don't have to suffer. Yeah, I think about, oh my God, everything would have been done because it was all about how to get somewhere. I would have had no idea,
So that's
as it worked out, the landlord felt bad because the insurance wouldn't cover it. And I was said, they said it was an act of God, and one of my friends said the act of God was that you weren't in the car. Wake up. You're right. I could have been in that car. I parked it a couple hours earlier, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and the landlord gave me some money for the car. I was able to use that as down payment. I ended up driving a better car. So.
Wow. So you got an upgrade.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely.
That seems to be the way that it works. Once we can begin to recognize it.
A couple years later, got rear-ended on the highway. I just said, thanks, I'm alive. Thank you. And you know, now I have a better car than I ever had. There's been an upgrade every time. It's not getting worse. You know?
That's a great example of, taking back the power. We spoke about this earlier, is just learning to take back the power. And when we were speaking about that, what we were speaking about is taking back the power of how to respond to something rather than something causing us to react, right? And when we can have that type of control over ourselves, our attitudes, our minds, our actions, our behaviors, then we begin to really be intentional.
Yeah. So take it to today where, you know, my wife just closed on the studio in Niantic. It's a yoga studio, Niantic Yoga. That place sat there for 2 years, and we tried 3 times, but we knew that we were going to have that place on Main Street. And persistence, we didn't give up. We believed that was going to be true. We did our human part. Every few months, we go over and see if the place is still available, anything changed. But that was all set up, and the place now, it's beautiful. Main Street. That was my wife's thought. She kind of taught me. She said she wanted to, when she lived in Seattle, she moved here and said she wanted to pay $1,000 for rent and wanted to live near the beach. And yeah, I believe I was a part of that connection too. I was like, wow, you said, because when I saw the place, I was like, you rent this for $1,000? I can't even believe it. And nobody could. So I said, maybe there is something with this. So that's when she waited a little while to see, kind of feel me out before she said, I think you might like, the center.
Wow, that's amazing. Your wife has definitely transformed your life.
Well, yeah, this is my third marriage. I appreciate my second wife, my first wife. So if they catch this, I love you. But it's been 6 years now, and it's just great friendship. And we don't try to change each other. We support each other, and it's quite different.
That's a blessing for sure. So your wife Tara has been amazing for the center. She has definitely helped support, the mission and change the lives. She ran our online platform for quite some time and really helped get us established with newsletter and things like that. So really grateful for her, the role that she's served in your life, and as well as at the center as well.
So we got a picnic coming up on the 25th, right? Next month.
Yeah.
So there's more to it than just service,
It's going to be a good time. And Gary, that's located where?
In Essex, the Petty Bog Yacht Club.
Yeah.
12 to 4. So that's a great time to come by and say hi, introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
If you're bashful, we'll come and find you and we'll say hi. It's all good.
Show up.
Yeah.
Outdoor events. It's a beautiful venue. We have all kinds of good food there and good people for sure. We have lots of games, and Reverend Patrick has always done a great stump the Reverend.
Yep, stump the minister.
Stump the minister.
Oh, this was the first service that I've ever been to where the minister said, "Does anybody have any questions? Want to make any comments?" I was like, "What? What are you doing? Are you open to that? Somebody could pick your sermon." He didn't care because it's the truth. There's no. So when you said I want to do, you'd like to interview, I said, well, I don't really want to know the question. I would have over prepared that, and I would have just. I'd rather have a conversation.
I respected that, when you told me that. I was like, you want me to come up with some questions and tell you them in advance? You're like, nope, I don't want to know them. Just wanted to just let it flow. And, again, that's another great example that, we learn in this place, is to just trust the process, right? Trust what happens and have faith that what happens is the right thing. We don't need to overanalyze or worry or stress or perfectionize, So I was like, right, that's awesome. Right on. Totally all about it. So I had a couple of other One of the things I wanted to ask you about, we say a lot, I've heard it said at Science of Mind, at CSL, is, we speak about creating a world that works for everyone. Can you touch on that, Gary, and paint a little picture, if you would, about what's intended behind that, and why do we say that, and what does it mean?
Well, love is all there is, and the rest we made up. So the first time I heard that, I was okay. Just imagine if everyone had an unconditional love for the next person. Would you be worried about how many potatoes you had, or would you give a couple to somebody that you know? You can use any analogy you want, but this world is so abundant. There's so much money. There's so much everything to go around. It just seems that we're not willing to share that. Because we're brought up also, to take care of ourselves and kind of there's that fear. I might not have enough when I get older. The lack mentality. But I think for me, it's just where we can all share, just share. And we believe that everybody would be better off if we just shared. There's so much to go around. And an opportunity where everybody can learn to start thinking different, to have different results. We don't want to be a secret anymore. There's over 600 centers. We're the only one in Connecticut. So that's why we're doing things like this to, kind of invite other people, get their curiosity up enough to come in. You can sit in the back, nobody's going to say anything. I like to, when I go somewhere new, I like to sit in the back too, so I can leave if it gets too weird. So we have some seats in the back for if you want to come in and sit there. It's all good.
I think a lot of us, including the Reverend, started sitting at the back, right?
Right.
Waiting for a way to bail out.
Yeah. But go back and look at his interview if you do. It's on our Facebook. You did a great interview with Dana. You guys spent a lot of time. He answered a lot of questions for you.
He did.
I loved watching. It was better the second time.
Yeah, he definitely dove in.
I owe everything to him, to Jackie Gabar for her teaching here at the center, but Reverend Patrick, become a friend, a mentor. He's an amazing person.
Gary, at what point did you know that you wanted to pursue becoming a practitioner?
Well, I never really did. I wanted to take the classes for myself. I was being very selfish at that time. So that's another word we can talk about later, but it's not a bad thing. So I just started taking them for myself. I knew I had a lot of work to do to change some of my old beliefs. I mean, I was raised that if you had any money, you were no good and you were stealing it from other people. Totally false. Has no truth at all. But I bought into that and I believed that. And I didn't want to be that kind of person. So guess what? Never had any money. Hand in hand, right? There's a reaction to every action. That's just the way nature works. The leaves fall off in the spring, they come back up. You don't have to do anything. It automatically happens. So when you open up to new things come in. You can't drive the new car if you're still hanging on to the old one. It's one of Reverend Patrick's kind of, you got to let go of some of that and make room. I got way off topic on that one. I'm sure I did.
It's all right. It happens. It's all good, right? As you would say.
Yeah, it's all good. And one of my favorite is right action is always taking place.
I love it.
And knowing that, I don't have to worry about things. I think about things, but I don't worry about them. And that's kind of hard for a lot of people to get sometimes. So it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It comes off that way sometimes. I'm like, don't worry, it'll be fine. And it may come off that way that I don't care, but I have an incredible faith in right action taking place. And I know that spirit, the God, is always listening. So if I'm saying the right things, it knows exactly what to give me. The universe is like a mother, right? Mother wants to give a child everything, but sometimes the mom doesn't know what the child wants. And the mom tries, but it might not be right. So if we're kind of inconsistent in our message to God, it's going to be reflected in our results, in our experience.
It's that's some serious truth right there. Kind of just got me thinking.
I love to do that. That's one of my favorite things to do.
You know, and it's funny because I've witnessed an experience where people that are used to worrying about stuff, when they come across somebody or they have to connect and work with, or, you know, live with somebody who doesn't worry or, you know, stress, it's difficult for them to kind of comprehend, you know, how it's like, how could you not care, right? And they think that you don't care, like you said, but it's a big difference. It's people sometimes have a tough time differentiating caring and stressing. You know, you can care about something, but stressing about it is a totally different conversation. And I find it interesting just to watch people kind of get those two mixed up at times. And, you know, I used to be guilty of it as well. You know, I would, if somebody wasn't stressing about something that I was stressing about, I right away thought they didn't care. And people would say, oh, I care. No, you don't. Not as much as I do, obviously, you know. And then my own selfish needs would kind of take priority in that particular moment, because they weren't stressing or worrying as much as I thought that they should.
Right.
But
well, the only thing that we can control is our own thinking. Another realization: we can't control other people. We can control how we think about it and how we react. But we can't change other people, so it's.
You know, I agree with that, and I disagree with that at the same time, because
you can influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always say, be an example. Just be an example, where, you know, someone can say, "How did you do that?" and then just tell them the truth. You know, instead of trying to convince somebody, "Oh, you should start doing this differently or start doing that."
Yeah, that doesn't work all that well. So, you know,
it causes what we call separation between the two, and there's only oneness. So when you create separation by being jealous, being, you know, just judging, you're creating separation, which really is kind of an opposite thing to really what you want in your life.
Right.
Hard truth here. Some of the things will definitely challenge you.
Oh yeah.
But in a loving, fun way. You'll walk away laughing at yourself. I mean, that's what I found. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even believe, how did I adapt that kind of thinking when you have that aha moment? You're like, oh my goodness, how did that even happen? But
yeah, you know, it's quite humorous how foolish we can be, and not even be the slightest bit aware of it.
Right.
Until all of a sudden you are aware of it. And you're like, oh, you know, what was I thinking? Like, wow, it really is mind blowing. But yeah, the center has certainly changed my life and opened up my eyes. And as a result, you know, I've been able to learn how to be an example, and to be a positive example with that.
Yep, definitely. You've helped a lot of people. You don't even know. You don't know.
That's all I want to do in my life is, you know, to be an example, and to, you know, it took me a long time. I was very stubborn, Gary.
You weren't alone. You're not alone.
You know, I think, you know, when the pain, I heard this in, you know, in recovery, When the pain gets great enough, we become willing. And I'll tell you what, my tolerance for pain is unlike a lot of people's.
You get used to it. You accept it as normal.
Yeah. Yeah. My tolerance for spiritual and emotional pain is significantly high. Physical pain, I'm a baby when it comes to physical pain. But but that emotional and spiritual pain just became a way of life for me. And, going against the tide.
You really, the message, you don't have to accept where you are if you're not happy. Your acceptance of it will actually keep you there. So you need to get beyond that and let more joy in. And it starts with knowing that there's more available, right? If we think there's only so much, then it's in opposition to what our thought is. But Reverend Patrick had told me once, he said, you're a spiritual being having a human experience, which means that you have a body, you're not your body. Like you have a car, you're not your car. So we have a brain, but we're not our brain. So we could use our brain as a tool, like you would use your hands and your feet. You can make your brain go to work for you. I always thought that was in there, you're born with that. Some people had it, some people didn't, right? So again, you accept where you're at. Just not knowing the truth, not knowing that there's so much more, you just accept where you're at. And that's kind of a sad way to live.
Yeah, well, that way of living, if you want to call it that, existing is really what brought me to suffer tremendously and, brought me to my knees, heroin addiction and all of that, just struggle and strife. But I'm grateful for all of it because it all, eventually I got tired, eventually it took a lot, but I got tired and I became willing and I was always seeking, and I think that's what, the thing with like this center was that I think that instinct, I knew that what I was seeking, I was going to find at the center there. I had attended different centers before and different religions and things like that. But they always kind of just reinstated that helpless feeling. And I knew that there had to be a different way. Like, I knew that God didn't make us to just be weak and to be, helpless and hopeless. He created us so that we can be and have and do and all of those things in which we desire. If we only learn the true power that we possess, that was given to us. And the center has certainly opened my eyes up to that and freed me from a lot of that pain and suffering. I can't even begin to think where I would be. And
don't go there. Don't go there.
I don't even want to think because that's scary.
Don't put any energy over there.
Yeah, no, way too much. Like just for a second there, it's like my blurry background right here. I can see it's kind of like my whole thought process over there is like blurry, like get out of there. But Gary, let's kind of go back, to the center, and we've kind of faced some all the centers out there with the past year or so have really experienced a lot of changes and things like that. What do you think? What do you think what is, as the leader of the center, what are some of the things that you would like to see come about for the center over the next, 5 years?
For the center? Absolutely. Well, I know that our online presence became obvious that we needed to explore this avenue, and it's all new for all of us. But I know that there's just so much fun we could have, and increasing our membership allows us to do more things, keep doing what we're doing, expand. I'd like to have the center see its own building. I think that's one of our. We could do more. We could offer more things, more classes. I definitely see us offering more things, educational pieces. CSL is pretty much kind of like a college where you would go take courses. And you touched on it before. I really didn't finish though. I did end up becoming a licensed practitioner through the courses that I took, and I've been able to help people since then. Just like say, realize the strength that they have and the power that they have within. So I know that having a bigger center and having just a more people, and we can share what we're doing, is just going to be where we're headed in the next 5 years. That's what we're doing. Have what we call it, our bigger and better fund, right? So that's been able to help us through some of the challenging times.
Absolutely.
But thank God for Zoom and emails and all those ways that we connect. We're meant to be together. That's our nature, is to be together. But I think as a whole, we're adapting and we're doing well, and we'll get back there. We'll get back there.
Gary, why would somebody want to maybe contact a practitioner? I've heard, we've spoken a couple of times about you becoming a practitioner. What kind of value or service does a practitioner offer to the congregation and the members?
Well, through an intensive study course, being able to listen without judgment, and to be able to identify that underlying belief. So it's about counseling and offering prayer, guidance and prayer. Sorry, no counseling. Because you need to make your own decision. I could give you advice, but it's rather just guidance. Try this. You might want to use this affirmation, things like that. But it's a skill that we've learned to be able to recognize the underlying thought. It's not always at the top. So there's a, again, well, what do you want to do? And then you ask yourself that 5 times, and it's always different at the end, if you're honest with yourself. So you got to dig in there a little bit, but it's knowing the right questions to ask, and not being judgeful at all. Just knowing that there's a perfect, whole, and complete human being in front of me. There's nothing we need to fix. There's just something we need to remember and realize. So I think versus counseling, therapy, things like that, they spend a lot of time in the past, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes you got to do that, but there's nothing in your past that dictates your tomorrow. When you start thinking right, there's nothing that you have to that's in the past. You can create a new life tomorrow, and it doesn't have to be based on anything in the past. So why spend a lot of time in the past figuring out what's wrong, and why not just declare the new truth and start thinking different?
I like that. It's powerful. Nothing in the past dictates the future.
Yeah. If you let it will.
True. True. Right.
If you let it will, but physically and mentally, there's nothing. Spiritually, there's nothing that holds you back that you did. Yeah. There is no God judging us. That's a human quality. That's not a God quality.
Yeah. We have this urge, this need to judge and
Well, we're
label.
taught in school, you want to get the A. You don't want to be the guy that gets the C on the test. And we're told to be, competitive and things like that. And I don't feel that's, you know, sports is competitive. That's what it is. But I don't feel life should be competitive like that. Like we don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to be, you know, that person that's always offering the advice. And it's so much rewarding to just listen to someone. That's what we all want. We all want to be heard, and I think that's just something special that you can be heard here without judgment.
That is definitely something I learned how to do through this, is to learn to listen. And
yeah, when I first met you, you used to talk, you'd be like an inch away from my face. Like, I hear you. I hear you. And now it's just, I don't know, it's so different. It's a great change. You love it. Your smile is bigger than it ever will be. I shouldn't say will be, but it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great to see you. You're always in a good mood now. And I know that wasn't always true.
No. So every once in a while,
Either covering it up real good or you're learning something here. One or the other.
definitely a lot of learning something for sure.
Well, there's perfect balance in this world, right? So when we lean our thinking one way, you get off balance and things get a little tough.
Yeah. And for me, speaking of, of tough, I'll just say is that, this transformation process that I went through as a result of attending the courses and, really getting connected and reading the books and, applying the work, it really rocked me, to say the least. It, all I can say is I share this message with people, and it's like, people, I think, visualize like this. I'll speak for myself. I used to always visualize like a spiritual awakening as like this glorious, beautiful, really amazing experience. And until I had one. And then I was like, oh, wow. Like, it really rocks me to my core. And it was an intense emotional, mental, spiritual ride of my life. But what came after that, and what I was able to learn, and to learn the truth, and to experience that peace and that joy that we spoke earlier on in the segment about, priceless. It's like getting on a roller coaster ride that's just like, reminds me of the old wooden roller coaster at Riverside Park, like whip you all around, and it was so uncomfortable, and all of a sudden like, stop. Like, that's what a spiritual awakening process was like for me. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, a little discombobulated, like, and you look around, you're like, wow, whiplash, kind of like settles down a little bit, and you're like, wow, you just really start to perceive how distorted.
Yeah.
I was really distorted in my way of thinking towards life for a very long time. And what I've gained from all that the center is about, you can't put it into words. You can't explain it. You can't conceptualize it. It's something that you have to pursue in faith. And I think just seeing the example of others who have what we want is what will draw you in. And, I think if people just showed up and really gave themselves a chance, what they'll find here, who they'll find, or what they'll find, rather, it is just mind-blowing. And I'm so grateful and so appreciative for, everything that you've done to be a part of this place. And you've been a part of this place for almost 9 years now. And every Sunday I've gone there, you were always there, setting up the chairs, like, you know, and I know that you drive a long ways to get there and to give back and to be as invested into the well-being of other people and to be the example, Gary. I just really want to say thank you.
It's been a pleasure. That's where I am. It's something I look forward to. It's not something. It's something I get to do. You know.
There's another. Let's use that right there. Dive in a little bit more with that. I get to do.
Yeah. Yeah, because we kind of always, well, I got to do that. I got to do that. You know, just saying that I have to do this and I get to do this, there's a different energy there. If you're an energy kind of person, you know, it's all about energy, and everything exists within that ether, right? So just to know that it's all out there, you can get real excited and say, I can have some fun with this creating thing. You know, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, and you know, it's for the better, for the world that works towards everyone, which is really the mission is really amazing. The power of the prayer that I've learned. I mean, there's groups of people that have stopped wars by praying. It's amazing. I was never anyone to pray. I didn't even know what it was. And now I realize it's just a conversation I'm having with myself all day long. That's a prayer. So I'm careful of that, what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking about. Mm. But for so many, up to like till I was like 48 years old, I was always reading books trying to be somebody else. If I could just be this person or that person, and you know, I just needed to do what they did or do what this person did. I had no idea that we're all unique individualizations of God. We all have a special gift. So it's time to, you know, when it looks a little foggy through the window, you got to start clearing the window, you know. It gets a lot clearer when you start wiping away some of the thoughts and things that you grew up with. There's just so much help here. I'm so grateful for everyone here, and just great to see everyone on Sunday mornings, and so it just really charges me up.
Gary, so why do you think somebody would want to come to this? You know what? Why Science of Mind?
Why not? I like to keep it simple. It is as simple. It's like I said, it's not easy, but the concepts are so simple, and when you hear them, they just make sense. You know, now we need help to do it, to keep in that, to get rigid, to get disciplined. But the things just make sense. It's what you want to believe. You know, I knew that I didn't want to believe that I was being judged constantly. There was some that just didn't feel right. But I bought into that truth, and so that was my experience. I'm a science buff. I know there's consequences from electrician. I know that, you know, electricity, there's no good or bad, because we use electricity to heat our house, to cook our food, but we also use that to execute people. So, you know, there's a good and bad. There's everything, you know, it's all good. It's just how we look at it. And when I wake up in the morning and say, this is only good, what am I going to experience that day?
Wow. A lot of goodness. A lot of goodness.
Because I'm only looking for good. I'm not out there looking for bad, creating bad. I've done that. It's just a choice. It's a conscious choice. Because my brain still wants to react, right, to the old. That's what it's trained to do.
Right.
It's been a series of trainings and reconditioning. Similar to go to the gym. If you want to get buff, you can't just lay on the couch and think about it.
Oh man, I was hoping so. I've been trying.
That's called a spiritual misconduct. Is basically what it is. It's just so much. It's good. I just love talking about this. It's life changing. It really is. I never
Absolutely.
thought it was going to happen. That's why I am so excited today, because I really didn't think it was going to happen. I was really at that settling down. Just, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. And now I know how, no matter how good things are, it can always get better, because there's an infinite amount of good.
Just a matter of whether or not you're able to see it.
Yeah, yeah. But I was trained, money was the focus, and so many of us are, right? So, but I found that when you focus on something that you love to do and you understand your purpose here, your individual magnificence, the money takes care of you. So I said this to you once, and you were like, "What?" I said, "God equips the willing, doesn't will the equipped." So you can be overly equipped, but if you don't have any will, you're not going to get that. But if you have a will and you have an idea that you want to do, God will supply all the rest. It's quite a change of thinking from when I was younger, before the center. We always call it before and after because it's so life changing. It's kind of a common thing before. Where were you before the center?
Yeah. The old you versus the new you.
Yep.
It's like we should totally change our names. Like I'm gonna call myself John from this point forward. People be like, "Huh? What happened to that guy?" And I'm like, spend some time with him. You'll get to know something happened. Oh wow. Well,
So true.
Well, Gary,
You
I've
put
really,
together some questions. Do you have more?
I've really kind of went through the questions that I have. I'm wondering if we have any questions.
Yeah, I'm interested to look. I wasn't following. I wasn't looking at it because
Real quick and see if there's anybody haven't.
I'm just glad we took the time to do this. If we reach one live, that's so rewarding. And if that's you out there, come by, give us a chance. Check out our website and our Zoom connections there. Or you can sign up for our newsletter on the website, CTCSL.org. And there's information there. You can sign up for the newsletter. We send a weekly reminder out with different things that are going on. So.
If you guys have found any value from this as well, give us some thumbs up, some hearts, leave, some comments in the comment section below. That will help us to grow our reach.
Yeah.
And that's the intention with all that we do, is to expand our service to others and expand our impact, to empower other people so that they can begin to live in truth, in their truth, and to be able to help people take back the power that they unknowingly give away. So if you're able to again give us some hearts and comments, thumbs up, those would be greatly appreciated. Again, visit our website, ctcsl.org. You can also contribute to support the mission of the center. There's a contribute tab there. It's available.
Yeah, go ahead and make a donation and open up the flow of circulation. That is a spiritual law. And money is called currency because it's supposed to flow and current. It's supposed to. We're not supposed to hide it and grab onto it all. The more you give, the more you receive. It's how you give, though. It's how you give. If you give freely without expecting any return on it, you're going to have more to give. That's just a natural law. If you give because you're trying to get something back, guess what? You're not going to get anything back, and that's a lot too. It's all about how you go about that and how you mentally give. It's changed my life. I can't even. I struggled with that forever until Jackie challenged me to just do a little bit more, where I'm feeling the little challenge from it, and but still release it anyway. Not knowing right action is taking place. Basically, I can we had, you know, a couple classes where we realized money comes from different areas, and we're not really aware of it. We're kind of so challenging that over the next few days, kind of see where it comes from, and you know, donate a couple dollars somewhere and see what, you know, without any expectation of what they're going to do with it, and then just keep track where the money's come. You know, somebody could buy you a coffee, buy you lunch. We take those things for granted, but that's all part of that law, that circulation.
Absolutely. It feels great to be able to give and just, you know, be a blessing. And when we bless others, we receive.
That's right. We raise our own consciousness. We raise the consciousness of others around us. So the more that when we say raise our consciousness, just become more of aware of who you are. Some people call it enlightenment, however you want to word that. There's several, but I just be aware of your own magnificence. I love that word.
Absolutely. Gary, would you be willing to take us out in a spiritual mind treatment?
Sure.
We'll let me do a spiritual mind treatment for abundance.
Yeah, I ask anybody that's watching to close their eyes for a minute. That kind of eliminates the visual distractions there. I know that there is one God. That one God is only love. Love is all there is. The God of kindness and joy and abundance. And I know what's true of God is true of me, because we are made in the likeness and the image of God, as God working through us. I'm blessed this time, and I know that people that are attending here will be more aware of their thoughts, and I know those thoughts will change their lives. And I'm grateful for this understanding, the power of the law, knowing it is already done in the mind of God. I release this words, knowing it is already done. That is truth, and so it is.
So it is.
That was kind of a general one, you know, for pretty much just here, that knowing that, you know, by joining us, and things will change, and becoming more aware of the power you have.
Well, we appreciate
I like to practice a little more beforehand, but that's all right. We're all good.
It's all good. Right actions taking place. It's a beautiful thing.
I'd like to thank everyone to take the time. You know, if you're watching this on the replay, thank you for watching again. And there's the videos on YouTube. There's also our homepage at Facebook. So there's plenty of things there to watch at your own convenience, which is cool too. I love the technology that allows us to work at our own pace, right time. So, you know, there was a time when we all had to be somewhere at a certain time, and if you didn't go, you missed it, right? Today, there's no secrets. The information is at your fingertips, and we're here to help and support you in any way that we can.
Gary, thank you so much. It was an honor to be able to have this with you and get to know you and hear all about just, you know, your journey, your experience, and talk about the center and the classes, and, you know, just to really understand the goodness that is available to people. So again, I thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and we will we'll speak more soon, buddy.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right, you too.
Take care.